Hey guys, I have another live brush swatch video for you. This one is of the new Too Faced Gingerbread Spice eyeshadow palette. And as usual, I will be using the MAC 239 for matte shades, the MAC 242 for shimmer shades. I will be using the Vermona color switch to clean my brushes in between, and all of this will be over the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. So this is the exterior of the packaging. It's their metal packaging that they've used on the chocolate bar palettes, and that is the mirror inside. So the description Too Faced gives, it says, add a little spice to your life with this deliciously sweet gingerbread palette of 18 multi-finish warm and toasty shadows that glide on with buttery smoothness for playful pops of color that smell like fresh baked gingerbread. And this does have a scent to it. It's very faint. I have to really put my face into the palette to smell it. And to me, it smells kind of like Play-Doh, so it's not super strong or offensive, but I wouldn't say that is a reason to pick it up either. So here I am applying the Too Faced Shadow Insurance. I like to use an eyeshadow primer from the brand that I'm swatching if I have it. I do wish they would include maybe a little sample of their shadow insurance like Lorac does for their palettes, but I happen to have that little one on hand. So going in with the first shade, this is called Powdered Sugar. It is a matte, and this is very similar to my skin tone, so it doesn't show up very well. I do go back later and try to build up this swatch so it does show up a little bit better. So the next shade is a shimmer, and that is called Spiked Eggnog. Going in with the 242 brush. And this one applied very well. This would be a great all over the lid shade. Alright, the first real pop of color is called Gumdrop. I used the 239 brush to apply this, but I think it really is more of a satin than a pure matte. Sometimes bright shades like this can go on a little chalky, but this one applied very well. I think it does cause some staining, as you will see later. So the next matte shade is called Gingerbread. Kind of a medium warm brown. This one also applied very well. Alright, the next shimmer shade is called Warm and Toasty. It's kind of a warm foiled gold shade. I looked at the Too Faced website and I didn't see any description of the shades on their website, so I'm just going off my own observations here. And then the final shade in this row is called Ooh Burn. And I think this one also applied very well. So this shade did have some fallout, as I will try to show you here in a moment. It's a little hard to see, but just be aware, you may want to do your eyes first if you're using that shade. Okay, here I am trying to build up that first shade, Powdered Sugar, a little bit more. I think there may have been some residual shadow from Gumdrop on my brush, so I think it showed up a little bit pinker than maybe it first applied. Here I am using my finger to apply Warm and Toasty. A lot of times you will get better payoff with a finger for some of these more foiled shades. And then back to Powdered Sugar. Because it looked a little pink, I wanted to see if I could get it kind of in its pure form there. And one more experiment here. I wanted to try applying Warm and Toasty wet. So I applied some onto my brush, and then I'm spraying it with MAC Fix Plus. So applying that next to it. I really do think fingers are the best applicator tools for shades like this, but if you have super long nails, or if you just don't want to use your fingers for some reason, you can also try applying it wet. And then with a brush that's still a little damp, going back and picking up more product, So you can see a lot of swatches there from the Warm and Toasty shade. So here I am wiping off those shades using a Kirkland makeup remover wipe. And I do this so you can get a sense of the staying power or longevity of some of these shadows. And I did double check to make sure that Too Faced calls this an eyeshadow palette and not a face and eye palette or just a palette. Sometimes brands will call what appears to be an eyeshadow palette a face and eye palette or just a palette because they have pigments in their pink or red shades that the FDA has not approved for use on the eyes, and that is largely due to staining that may result. So Too Faced does call this an eyeshadow palette, if you're curious. All right, so the first shade of the next row is called Frost Bite Me, and this one did not have great payoff. So I think on their website they say there are some sheer shades in this palette, and I think this would definitely be a shade that you would use as a eyeshadow topper because it doesn't have super great pigmentation on its own. So the next shade is a matte, and that is called Lookie at My Cookie. And this would be a nice crease or transition shade for, I guess, lighter skin tones anyway. And then the next shade is called Spice is Nice, and I would describe this as kind of a rusty orange, kind of a pumpkin color. That one applied very well. The next shade is called Oh Snap, and this is a shimmery or foil shade. And the next shade is called Bake It Till You Make It. Also a foil shade. Had to work at this one a little bit to build it up. And then the final shade is called Spice of Life. And it's kind of an olivey shimmer color. So next I'm applying those 4 foiled shades using my finger. So that first one again is Frost Bite Me. This one is Oh Snap. The next one is Bake It Till You Make It. And the final one is called Spice of Life. So that first shade shows up a lot better using a finger, as do the other ones really, but that first one is quite dramatic. And I think you also get a lot more intensity with that last olive shade. Again, using a Kirkland makeup wipe to remove those swatches. And like Gumdrop, Spice is Nice is a little bit harder to remove. Okay, so I have a freshly primed arm, and now that it's set, I'm applying the first shade of the last row called Sugar Daddy. It is a medium matte pink. Also a little hard to see on my skin tone. The next matte is called Figgy Pudding, and for me this one went on a little patchy. It was a little hard to blend. I think purples tend to be one of the harder colors to formulate, so it's not too bad considering that. The first foiled shade is called Hot Toddy. And this one was a little bit difficult to apply with the brush. All right, the next matte shade is called Reindeer Paws. the dark brown. I think this one applied pretty well. And the last matte shade of the palette is called Gingerbread Latte. It's a neutral light to medium brown. And this one applied very well. Most brands can put out a shade like this that's pretty decent. Alright, and the last shade is unfortunately the worst, and that is called Spiced Rum. It is another foil shade. You can see I'm getting very little payoff with my brush there, and you can see it's really kind of digging into the shadow. So even with a lot of product built up on the brush, it still doesn't really blend that well. I wouldn't say this is really like a pressed glitter either. It's just, I don't know, not a very well formulated foil in my opinion. I don't know if they had an issue with pressing, if it should have been pressed harder. Here I'm patting it down a little bit and then trying to get some onto my finger for a finger swatch, and it's definitely digging into the shade again. So here is the finger swatch, and as you can see I had to go over it a couple times for it to smooth out. So I'm also doing a finger swatch of Hot Toddy, and you can see that's a lot more vibrant using a finger swatch as well. So here I had a lot of fallout, principally from the Spiced Rum shade. And again, using a makeup remover wipe. I think I'd already used this one, so it didn't remove as much in the first pass, but I go in with a clean one to finish it up. So here is a collage of the 3 rows of just brush swatches, no finger swatches, so you can see those side by side. And then this is the palette after I completed all of those swatches. You can see Spiced Rum is pretty beat up there. There's a little speck of Figgy Pudding, that purple shade, in Lookie at My Cookie, which is that medium pink, but that was there when I received the palette. So would I recommend this palette? I think it depends. I think most people are picking this up for the novelty or the kitsch factor. So if the gingerbread packaging or the kitsch factor is especially attractive to you, I think you can definitely produce some good eye looks using this palette, especially if you use a finger to apply those more foiled shades onto the lid. But I think there are some shades in here that definitely could have used some more work. I don't know that the color selection is necessarily all that unique. So if you are looking for a real workhorse palette that you will want to use every day, I don't know that this is necessarily the best choice. So I hope you guys found these swatches helpful in making your purchasing decision. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.